Good morning, and thanks for joining us on this very special day, July 4th, 2021. Very special day for two reasons, right? First of all, today is 425 years since Independence Day here in the United States. It's a very, of course, very celebrated holiday, very important for the country. But it's also 10-year anniversary of Kardec Radio. I'm Luiz Lima. I'm one of the hosts at Kardec Radio, and I host Spiritism, A Closer Look. We run this every Wednesday at 7 p.m. Eastern Time. 10 years of Kardec Radio. Wow. What a great milestone, and what a great accomplishment. Uh, we have several people working through all this time, bringing us the consoling message of Spiritism, presenting programs and talks and interviews. By the way, I encourage you to go to kardecradio.com and check our programming grid. There are programs and things from all angles and all possibilities, and really, really, really very interesting, all about Spiritism. And the moment, right, calls for some words. I think we need to bring some words to elevate the moment or this day, 10-year anniversary. So hope, just like me, you are inspired with joy and happiness in your heart. So let's talk about something. What is that something? Well, this is about celebration. So yes, we are going to talk about celebration. What are we going to celebrate? We are going to celebrate yourself. Two words. Yourself. Celebrating ourselves. It's something we hardly ever do. Most of us never do. When I say most of us, it's not only spiritists. I'm talking about humanity in general population. Most of us do not celebrate the moments of life. So I think maybe we should address or bring up two questions. First, are we really, but really, enjoying life? Or are we just ranting and complaining about everything and everyone? If we are enjoying life, then yes, we are celebrating ourselves on the minimal things that happen throughout our day. Even routine stuff gets celebrated and accounted for, if you will. But if we are ranting and complaining about things and life and everything and everybody, and we're just not going to celebrate anything because it doesn't fit in the line of thought. And that's what we need to change. We need to stop the complaining and ranting and celebrate ourselves. So that's what I wanted to talk about briefly here. But first, in order to talk about celebrating, we have to understand this process of complaining and so. So, what makes it difficult to celebrate ourselves? I think we can maybe address it in two parts. First is physical pain. When you are, or myself included, right? When we are going through some sort of physical pain, it could be something very simple, like a toothache, maybe a migraine. It doesn't have to be anything, very complicated. But if you have, for example, a toothache, you might go through times and days where it just never occurs to you, or whoever goes through that, to celebrate life, to celebrate yourself. It's physical pain. It's annoying. You will throw us out of balance at times, okay? Now, physical pain can take place because of, for the most part, two things. First, an accident. Okay, so you've been through an accident, you're in pain, you need to be treated. Of course, you go to the doctors, and there's some clinical stuff that has to be done to give you better comfort. That's accident. But the other thing, the other possible cause of physical pain is they might be consequences of wrongdoings in the past. Yes, they will, at times, depending on circumstances, they will bring physical pain. in a form of ailments, illnesses, diseases, that kind of thing, because these are moments where we are offsetting things that we did in the past, and they will have to be offset. We will have to make up for our wrongdoings, or the things that we did in the past that were not supposed to be done. We will have to face it. We will have to go through this. And at times, when going through the process of offsetting, you will bring us diseases, illnesses, and so on. So that's related to physical pain. But there's another thing that makes us forget to celebrate life, which is metaphysical. It's not physical. So I'm going to call this suffering. So suffering has to do with the emotional part, with the spiritual part, the morality, all of those things. They will have consequences on us, and they will cause discomfort. But it's a different kind of discomfort. Let's say, for example, that I hit my wrist here somewhere. I just hit my wrist, and it hurts. It's really hurting. So what I do is I go to the doctor. He's going to look at it and say, well, use this little topical thing here, and you're going to be okay in 2-3 days. And I will be okay in 2-3 days. The pain is going to stop, and I'll just keep going with my life. That's physical pain. We can pinpoint in the physical body where it comes from. Now, suffering is different, because I cannot pinpoint a part of my physical body where that comes from. For example, I can go to the doctor and say, I'm not feeling well. The first question is going to be, well, what exactly are you feeling? Well, I'm not sure. I don't know. I'm just not feeling well. And then he will say, well, where is that? Is that in your head? Is that in your chest? Is that in your stomach? Where is it? I don't know, doctor. I'm just not feeling well. So you see, we have a tremendous difficulty, a tremendous hard time in pinpointing that or explaining to the doctor, because it's not physical. I cannot, it's not my wrist. I cannot pinpoint somewhere on my physical body where the discomfort comes from. So it throws us out of balance, our energies, our body's suffering, and I can't pinpoint where it comes from. That's because it is not anywhere on the physical body. That is coming from the perispirit. That is something metaphysical. It's not in the physical body. The perispirit is suffering for one of the reasons that I said, emotional, morality, spiritual, whatever. And it's projecting that over to the entire physical body. If it's the entire physical body, I cannot pinpoint. I cannot say it's here, it's there. It's just not possible to. Now, these discomforts, or the suffering, as I said, of course, it's something that we have to deal with, and most of us have a hard time. But anyway, typically, we attribute the cause of these things to other people. Usually we think it's somebody else. We think it's him, or her. It could be a family member, a relative, a spouse, a son, daughter, co-worker, boss. We just blame everybody else, typically. When I say us, I'm talking about humanity in general, not us spiritists, anybody. So we get to a point where we kind of blame everything and everybody throughout our lives, throughout all the incarnations that we've been through, to the point that we kind of became masters in the subject of suffering. We kind of became masters. Right? Because we've been through so much of it that, we kind of graduated from it. So we have established throughout time, right? We have established this suffering support system that we feed all the time. It becomes a habit. It becomes a habit. And it's very hard to break. So suffering is something that kind of is part of our life, and it shouldn't be. It shouldn't be. We should be celebrating life, celebrating yourself, right? Celebrating ourselves. but we are going through this suffering. The gospel according to Spiritism, has a beautiful message from Spirit Lacordaire, and actually I encourage you to go to the gospel and seek for that. And it's on chapter 5, and he will say, first time I read this thing, I had to think about it for a few minutes. This is what he said, his words, not mine, okay? Few of us suffer well. And I read that and I said, well, that's kind of paradoxical. How can I understand this? And he will explain at length, okay, throughout the text. That's why I'm telling you, go back to the gospel and read it. So suffer well means suffering has to happen in a way because I have to offset my wrongdoings. So offsetting wrongdoings has to happen. Now, as I go through this, I can make the best out of it, considering that, first of all, I will go through this to learn from it in order to never do this again, or never go through this again. That is suffer well. Instead of rebellion, no, let me take this with my own hands, let me analyze, let's see what was done in the past that took me to this place, because I don't really want to be in this place anymore, right? Or never again. Now, when does it happen? When does suffer well happens? Suffer well happens when suffering meets wisdom. When suffering meets wisdom, that's when we are going to make the best out of offsetting these things. We need to be wise enough to kind of walk out of the problem, walk out of the black box, and look at it from above and say, oh, I see what's going on. This is a consequence of that. So if I avoid the cause, the consequence is not going to be there. That's what suffer well is. It's using wisdom to go through the processes. In the gospel, on the first letter of Peter, there's a very interesting phrase. He says, it is better to suffer for doing good than for doing evil. Meaning, as I offset, let's do this thing in a good way, in the right way. Because if I do the evil way, rebellion, revolt, it's just, first of all, I'm not going to feel any better now that I'm going through it, but it's going to create another problem for my future. I'm going to have to deal with this again and again and again and again. So we could say, in kind of simple words, we only belong in a suffering world as long as we feed this suffering support system. If we stop feeding it, we're going to look at it and say, I don't belong here. I don't want to suffer anymore. I'm walking away from this thing. I'm going to do something else. I'm going to go to the other side. Right? And stop blaming people. Stop blaming, spouses and whoever for our wrongdoings. Not the wrongdoings, but for the consequences of what we saw in the past, what we did in the past. So these people that we blame, we call them enemies, but if you think about it, they're not really enemies. They are the ones who will narrow the door for us. Remember Jesus in the parable, the narrow door? The narrow door is what will make us go through, and when we cross it, when we go to the other side, we're going to be in a different situation, much better, in a much better condition. So going through the narrow door instead of the wide door is the key. But these people are trying to take us to the narrow door. They are here to tell us, well, listen, here is, you have not yet mastered, say, patience or intolerance or whatever it is, or pride or selfishness. They are here to do this for us. They will narrow the door. We don't like it, we call them enemies. But they are the starting point for the turnaround. They should be, we should value them enough that they become our starting point to a new life, to a new horizon, to a new not suffering world anymore. Unfortunately, we consider them enemies, and we keep feeding the system. Now, what's on the other side? It's enough about suffering, enough about this. What's the other side? Well, the other side has 4 letters. It starts with O, ends in E. No, not lose. No, not life. Not live. No. Love. L-O-V-E, love. Love is the other side. Love is at the base of everything good that will come. Love is what Jesus came to teach us and show us how to. Now, the thing is, the perception of love that we have is incorrect because we don't perceive love as we should. We should perceive love as something unconditional. And that perception requires wisdom, again. Wisdom. And again, by the way, wisdom, how do I acquire wisdom? Right? Spiritism is a form of it. It's all the information that we have, all the instructions from the Spirit, that will make us wise if we really get into it. So the perception of love requires wisdom. When we get there, we're gonna be living unconditional love, always. You see, it's not that we don't know unconditional love. We do. For example, let me give you a quick example. Let's say you have a kid, say 2-year-old. Right? You have a 2-year-old kid, and you tell them not to do something because they're gonna get hurt or whatever it is. Of course, you're doing this for their own benefit. They won't see it, but you're doing something. You're forbidding them from doing something for their own benefit. They will get mad because they want to do that thing, and you say, no, you can't do it. So they will get mad. At one point, they might just close their fist like this and come to us and hit our legs or so, because they're too small, right? So they reach as high as our legs. And yeah, they hit our legs. What do? Do you do the same thing? Do you close your fist and you hit them back? An eye for an eye? No, we don't do that. We take the kid, right in our arms. We embrace, we hug them. We hug them deeply. A tremendous amount of love goes through us. And we stay that way for a minute, maybe 2, if that long, okay? While that is taking place, there is no bad neighbor. There is no bill to pay. There is no boss that I don't like. There is no society that is wrong. Nothing like this. For those 2 minutes, let's say it's 2 minutes. For those 2 minutes, everything is in the most perfect order, as it should be in your life. Those 2 minutes are 2 minutes of unconditional love. So it's not that we don't know unconditional love. We cannot sustain. The limitation is not knowing. The limitation is not sustaining. We cannot sustain because we do this for 2 minutes and we go back to suffering. Then we put the kid back on the floor. Unconditional love goes away with it, and we go back to, I gotta do this and I gotta do that. So we go back to the suffering support system that we feed all the time. Unconditional love, it's something that we know, we just cannot sustain. It's difficult to sustain. And on this example that I'm giving you, the unconditional love came because I'm reacting to something. We reacted because our kid came to us with a fist like this and hit us on the leg. So it was kind of a reaction to something that happened. But unconditional love should not be triggered by a reaction to something. It's just out there. It's just out there. But we kind of don't pick up. It's like our antennas don't pick that up because we are looking at something else. through the hands of one of the great composers of our times, Bernie Taupin, and through the voice of another one, Elton John, came a phrase that for me, it's unbelievably deep. It's two phrases in a song. The first phrase is a question, the second is the answer to the question. The question is, can you feel the love tonight? Can you feel the love tonight? And the answer on the next verse is, it is where we are. It is where we are. If I'm here right now, unconditional love is here. If you are wherever you are right now, unconditional love is there. We just don't pick up. It's everywhere. Yeah, love is that innocent. You will not look into who you are, what kind of spirit you are. No. Love is innocent. Love is intransitive, meaning it doesn't require a reason. It doesn't require some sort of compliment. Love is love. Unconditional love is unconditional love, period. It's liberating. It takes me out of pain. It takes me out of the suffering support system, puts me in a new place with new eyes, if you will, for a brand new world, for something completely different. You see, love cannot be laid to rest. Love cannot be laid to rest. So cannot the Spirit, because the Spirit is created out of pure love. That's why the Spirit is immortal, because it cannot be laid to rest. Love cannot be laid to rest. It's a never-ending thing. So, celebrating ourselves, right? Celebrate yourself. Where is that love? Where is our perception of love? Why can't we perceive love the way we should? Well, because we need more wisdom. Where do I get wisdom? Well, I'll tell you one thing, Kardec Radio is one of them. Spiritist literature is vast. So many books with all types and sorts of information. There are resources all over the place for us to understand, to be wiser and be at a better place, to use our wisdom towards our own benefit and others too. See, this is our best incarnation ever. We are at peak. We never go back. We never unlearn what we learned. You see, we learned how to read. So if I give you a piece of paper and I tell you, don't read that, it's too late. You know how to read. You already did it. You cannot unlearn that. This is our best incarnation ever. We are always moving forward. That's part of evolution, progress, moral progress. We are always moving forward. This is our best life ever. So why not just celebrate if it's the best? We celebrate the best things in life. Why not our life ourselves? Right? So let's celebrate. Let's just give yourself a round of applause. Celebrate. Celebrate. Be wise. Now, for all of that to happen, there's an underlying element for us to move away from the suffering system to love, to unconditional love. And that is called humility. We can never lose sight of humility. You see, in our lives, we go through different incarnations, different lives, and things go by, things happen, and we are always unhappy. Not always, but for the most part, we are not happy people in general. So let's say, for example, let me see if I can give an example. Let's take this one lifetime. So you're a kid and you grow up and you become a young man or young woman and you go on with your life. And at one point, because of the level of responsibility and the level of things that we have to go through, we're here to offset the past, right? So life goes on, the years go by, we are offsetting more and more and more of the things that we did in the past. If we don't do any wrongdoings at all to pile up, I'm not even going to get into that. So let's just say we're trying to offset everything that we did. And things will be more complicated. At times, things are heavy on us and we fall. And with time, most of us have the impression that the thing is becoming more complicated. Everything's going not well as I thought. I would like to be in a different place. So the years go by. So we get sick and we go to a doctor. We don't like the doctor. I am still feeling the same way that I felt before. Let me see a second doctor, and then another one, and then this, and then that. And there's a point where we go like, wow, I've tried everything. Nothing is working. When that takes place, we roll our eyes up and we go like, oh, Jesus, help me. Oh, God, help me. That is humility. Oh, God. Oh, Jesus, help me. But the problem is, we use humility as the last resource. When I tried everything and nothing worked, then yeah, let's try this last thing here. And let me pull this out of my sleeve here. Let's try this. Where in the gospel is it written that try everything? If nothing works, use humility. There is no such a thing. Actually, it's the other way around. Humility comes on top. Priority one. Humility is the base for everything. So when we pray, because it's our last resource, it's all backwards. Because prayer requires humility, yes, but humility is the first thing that we should have in mind. It should be our first line of combat, if you will, right? Humility comes before anything else. Instead, we keep feeding the suffering system instead of humility bringing us to our knees and, surrender. It's like no firefighter is any good if we continue to pour alcohol over the fire. If we keep feeding the fire with alcohol, you can bring the best firefighters. It's not going to be able to do anything. And you're going to say, oh, this guy is no good. That person is no good because he can't put the fire out. Right? So humility to be able to take this to the next level. Then going through the narrow door, using the presence of the enemies in our lives, going through the narrow door requires humility, and that's what we need. That's what we want. Well, guys, and I think Kardec Radio is one of the great resources for the English-speaking audience throughout the world, of course. It's, like I said, 10 years of this. Participate with us. Be part of Kardec Radio as audience, as, don't let this resource be there not to be used. Using that resource is part of getting wiser. Remember, wisdom kills suffering. Love and humility support everything else. Thanks for watching us. Thanks for being here with us. We hope you enjoy your 4th of July, right? And go ahead, celebrate yourself. Now I'm going to go because I'm going to celebrate myself. Thanks so much.